Hello, and welcome to this tutorial on nonparametric statistical test. Here we'll be focusing on the chi-square test for goodness of fit. This is also known as the one-sample chi-square. The test is used to compare the number of cases in the sample to a hypothesized number of cases within a larger population. There are just two items you need in order to conduct a chi-square test in SPSS. First, you need a categorical variable, such as high or low attachment-related anxiety, or high, low, or moderate mindfulness. And second, you need a comparison variable. For example, you might want to compare that attachment-related anxiety to the percentage of those with attachment-related anxiety in another similar sample or in a large study. Okay, so step one, how do you create that categorical variable? Well, first we have to decide which variable to use. If you have a data set like ours where you have a lot of continuous variables and you need to identify which one to transform into a categorical variable, it's helpful to build a rationale. So remember, secure attachment is characterized by low attachment-related anxiety. Preoccupied attachment is characterized by high anxiety. Avoidant attachment by low anxiety, and disorganized attachment by high anxiety. So in some ways, anxiety is a sort of dichotomous variable where your attachment style is in part determined by whether your anxiety is high or low rather than a continuous variable. So let's look at the experiences in close relationships assessment called the ECR, where we have questions like, I'm afraid that I will lose my partner's love. And this question is rated on a Likert type scale from 1 strongly disagree to 7 strongly agree. And so instead of using this continuous interval scale, we're going to transform this into a dichotomous scale. And now these individual numbers are not assigned a value, but we could surmise that 1 would represent strongly disagree because that is indicated, 2 disagree, 3 somewhat disagree, 4 neither disagree nor agree, 5 agree, 6 somewhat agree, and 7 strongly agree. And so we have split this at the 4, where 4 and up is characterized or considered high anxiety, and 3.99 and below is considered low anxiety. And so we're going to assign a value to represent each of these. So in order to do this, we go into SPSS and click on Transform, and then click on Recode into different variables. We want to make sure we select different variables rather than recode into the same variables. This way we always have our original variable intact. Then we see this dialog box pop up, and here is where you get to create a label for your new dichotomous variable. So you just want to select something that you will remember. So for here we used high-low anxiety. And then next, another dialog box comes up, and you can click old and new values. So here we have selected where the blue arrow says old and new values, and we have our names, and then we're able to basically recast these as 0 and 1. So we select over on the left range lowest through value. So lowest through a value of 3.99. This means any score on that Likert type scale from 1 to 3.99 is going to be represented by a 0. So then on the right side where it says new value, we select the circle that says value, and then we put in a 0, and then we click add. And that's why you see it there under old to new, lowest through 3.99 being represented by 0. Then we do the same thing for high anxiety, except we select over on the left hand corner range value through highest. So basically 4 through the highest value, which on this Likert scale is a 7. So if participants rated their anxiety between a 4 and a 7, that's considered high anxiety, and those values will be replaced on the spreadsheet with the 1, the new value of 1. And so we put the 1 up there, and we click add. Now you can use 1 and 2, 0 and 1, whatever makes most sense to you. And then we click continue. And SPSS will generate some descriptive statistics output, but you can also see the data file generates one more variable in the column high-low anxiety, and you have a new column of data. And as you glance down that column, you can see it's all zeros and ones. If you'd like to know just how many of each item you have, you can run a frequency by clicking on Analyze, Descriptive, and Frequencies. Here we see we have 46 participants with low anxiety and 4 participants with high anxiety. Okay, so let's go to the chi-square goodness of fit. The sample research question is the number of behavioral sciences students with high attachment-related anxiety before treatment different from that reported in the literature for a previous large nationwide study? Then, of course, we would cite the study and place in the expected value. In SPSS, to conduct the test, we click on Analyze, then we scroll down to Non-Parametric Test, Legacy Dialogues, and then chi-square. Here we can see that we're able to add our values, 0.93 and 0.07, and I'll explain why we selected those in just a moment. Make sure whatever values you input, your total equals 100, and then we want to click OK. And here the 93% we selected is because the DSM-5 indicated that the social anxiety prevalence level was 7% of the population. So we hypothesized that 7% of our sample would also be higher in anxiety and 93% lower in anxiety. And so that's where we got the 93 and the 7 for our expected values. Once you put those expected values in, you click OK, and then SPSS generates this output, and we see the output here on the left. The number of values for low anxiety was 27, high anxiety was 3. We divide those by the total number of participants, which for the treatment group was 30, so 27 divided by 30 gives us 90%. 3 divided by 30 gives us 10%. So our actual observed values were 90% and 10% compared to the 93% and 7% that we had expected. We can see if you look at the significance level, the blue arrow is pointing to that, the bottom line under test statistics, that's 0.520. That means there's no statistically significant difference. If it was less than 0.05, there would be a statistically significant difference. So this could mean that a chi-square goodness of fit test found no statistically significant difference in the proportion of high attachment-related anxiety identified in the sample, 10%, as compared with the value of 7% that was expected from the population based on the DSM-5 prevalence rates. So you just want to make sure with the APA style write-up that you include the p-value, the chi-square value, and the percentage expected versus percentage actual. So you can see the bottom bullet there shows you the APA style write-up. You just want to make sure to add the 90%, the percentages expected versus observed to that output. And a few tips to keep in mind are to remember to make a case based on the research literature that your variable could be perceived as continuous or dichotomous. For example, mindfulness high and low, emotional intelligence high and low, anxiety high and low. And if you need to look at just the treatment group or control group, you can use the select cases feature to do that. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Best wishes on your chi-square analysis, and I hope this gives you some concepts to contemplate. Until next time.